Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition, episode 97 of the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast, Mechanical Breakdown Series, Volume 30, breaking down the swing of Baltimore Orioles center fielder Cedric Mullins. Freshly evaluator, successful business owner, former coach, friend, and co host, Jaker the Raker Epstein. You get the raker part, right?
Man, that's
you
impressive, right there. That's new. Yeah. That's
Well, you're a great
Call me
hitter.
the gardener.
No, you're a great hitter. So that's why,
Yeah.
What's going
I
on?
know.
Hey, what's
Nothing,
going
man.
on? I want to talk about the Eagles and the Sixers. Ugh. Worst
They
accent.
get
Worst
the
accent in
Eagles.
America, by the way.
They had some good draft picks, right? The Eagles. I saw last night.
They did, yeah. But I'm talking about the accent of their fans. Worst
Yeah,
in
it's pretty
America.
bad.
Yeah.
Okay. Because that's where you're from.
No, I'm from Tampa, Florida. How many times are we going to go over this?
You live in Tampa, Florida.
Correct.
That's
I'm from Florida. My license says Florida, Chief.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So it's like that. This will be cool to go through Mullins, who used to be a switch hitter and then realized he was a much better left-handed hitter and decided to just stick with it. Good idea.
Hey, I want to ask you a question before we get to him. There's been talk first month of the season about humidors in every major league ballpark, trying to level,
especially in Cuba.
Right, trying to level. Tampa, by the way, famous for their cigars. For those who don't know,
yeah, I bet they are.
What do you think about that? Bryce Harper has come out and talked about that before, about how it's taking another human element out of the game. It's also taking out home field advantage. Do you have any thoughts on humidors, baseballs being in humidors prior to a game and then being brought out so it levels the playing field for each ballpark?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Those balls sit like in Arizona, especially in Colorado, especially where the humidity has been like 18% the past 3 weeks.
Yeah,
those balls get dry and they get hard and they fly. The ball flies just as well in Arizona as it does here because of that, because of the dry air, not necessarily the elevation. So, but there's just less wind resistance when there's no humidity in the air. So they went to that years ago here in Colorado. I know. I didn't think this was a new thing, the humidor. I guess maybe in certain areas they didn't have to do it, maybe in the Southeast or the West Coast. But in Colorado, they've been doing it at least for the last, 10 years that I can remember, 8 years, something like that. So I get it. Like it's a part, if they're going to do that, and it helps, that helps soften the ball so they get a better grip and they won't get as many blisters and things like that. So yeah, I don't really have a problem with the humidor. When they brought that to Colorado, the offense really did go down. Like it was very, very noticeable because those balls weren't jumping quite as much.
Yeah. Yeah. But do you agree with Bryce Harper's sentiment about how it takes away the home field advantage somewhat? And I actually I agree with him 100%.
I agree with that. Yeah. Because that's what it was all about, especially here in Colorado. It was like they called them the Blake Street Bombers because they just mashed. They hit bombs. They didn't care they were going to score 10 runs a game. Like that was their idea. We got to score 10 runs a game and outscore the competition. And they built a team around that because of their home field advantage. It's like Colorado has the home field advantage a lot. Like in the NFL, the reason they're pretty good at home is because of that altitude. It's tough to get that oxygen in and be normal. If you look at CU basketball, University of Colorado basketball, they're always really, really good at home because, all of a sudden these teams that aren't used to training at that altitude, all of a sudden they come up here, they got to run the court for 60 minutes and it beats them up. So, yeah, it definitely does take away some of that.
Speaking of a guy who hits bombs, Cedric Mullins, the centerpiece of today's episode, we're breaking down his swing, Mechanical Breakdown Series, Volume 30. Last year, I didn't know this. This was from the Orioles Media Relations Department. He was the first Baltimore Oriole in franchise history. I couldn't believe this at first because they've had so many great players.
Yeah,
go through the Baltimore Orioles organization. He was the first player. You hit it on the nose. He was the first player to reach the 30-30 mark last year, in 2021.
Brady Anderson.
I was very surprised. Cal Ripken Jr. I mean, Albert Bell. I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
Yeah,
very surprised.
Especially guys that could run, because Anderson could run. Trying to think of guys back in the day. Frank Robinson was an Oriole, but I guess he wasn't a big stolen base guy. But
Mm-hmm.
man, that is incredible because they've had some hitters from the beginning. Boog Powell, probably not going to steal any bases.
Mm-hmm.
But they had Brooks Robinson.
Yeah, and of course the one
Ripken,
Ripken,
yeah,
Manny Machado. I mean, just going
right
back a few years,
right.
I mean,
yeah, never sold 30 bags.
I'm looking up. I forgot to do this in my prep, so I apologize. By the way, I just want to say something. Googling when I was prepping this week for the show, when I was Googling Cedric Mullins, I would Google Cedric, and he wouldn't even come up on the first. Okay, he wouldn't even come
Cedric
up.
The Entertainer would come up.
Yeah, he would come up 6th on the Google list. Baseball should work on that. That's a marketing thing, by the way. Just want to throw that out there. Get off my soapbox.
Yeah, and an interesting history. Like, did he play 1 year of college ball or something like that?
He played at
small college.
He played
Campbell,
at Lewis. Yeah, he played at Lewisburg, then went to Campbell, and was
what's Lewisburg, a junior college?
Yes, and then 13th round draft selection.
Pretty great
by the Orioles. Now, he's still young, 27 years old, born October 1st, 1994. You know who else was born in the year of our Lord, 1994? Not me, but you know who else?
I'm sure there were a lot of people were born in 1994.
So I'm going to ask you this with Mullins. He's 5'8", not a big guy, but he has a lot of pop. I want to 30 home runs. Okay. If you filled out a scouting report for him going back to his amateur days, you probably wouldn't have put his power ceiling at 30 home runs. He fooled everybody with that. Could you consider him? He's off to a little bit of a slow start in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of his home runs last year, by the way, came against the Yankees. He loves hitting against the Yankees for whatever reason. Would you consider him a possible power hitter in the future?
He almost gives you a little bit of, Altuve, not as violent, not nearly as violent. I don't think he's as strong as Altuve. Altuve is really put together.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe an Albies, kind of gives me that Albies feel size wise. Hitting from the left side of the plate. He hits balls 400 feet. But he has a very adjustable swing that we're going to look at today. Different pitches and high pitches, and low pitches, and he can get to those pitches. But sometimes hitting home runs is about having a consistent launch angle and swing plane, and it's not about trying to hit home runs all the time. Really trying to drop and drive, if you will. Which is what I tried to do when I was a big guy. I was trying to hit balls hard and far. Where sometimes it looks like he's just playing sandlot baseball. He's just playing wiffle ball. Sometimes his back foot comes flying all over the place. Sometimes he has a one-hand follow through. Sometimes he has a two-hand follow through. Sometimes he has a high finish. Sometimes a low finish. He just seems to be a very athletic hitter that learned how to hit by hitting baseballs, not necessarily by being very mechanical. And I think he's kind of old school in that regard.
Yeah. In 2016, just for a little more context, when he was in the minor leagues, he was at Class A Delmarva. This was before the realignment, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But when he was at Class A, he hit 14 home runs. That was a career high. Then very next year in 2017, he hit 13. So there was that power, that peak of power there. There was a little peek into his possibly into what his future would be on the power side. But last year, he blew it out of the water with those 30 home runs. I mean, he blew it out of the water. It wasn't anywhere close to what you were expecting him on the power side to do statistically.
Yeah, and we'll see if he can back that up. Is he going to back it up, over the next couple of years, or is he going to go back to his 10 to 15 home runs a year? We won't know. But for 5'8" and 175 pounds, it's pretty awesome. In this day and age, as big as center fielders are, it's pretty cool to watch this guy roam out there.
Yeah. So Fangraphs, just want to throw this out there too. They have a couple of projections for his 2022 season. I know we're already a month into the year, but this is according to Fangraphs. They projected him. Stupid phone. They projected him to play in 138 games. and to get 585 plate appearances. Now, they projected him also to drive in 55 runs, steal 24 bases, have a strikeout percentage of 18.8, walk percentage of 7.7. But here's the real number that I'm looking at, and it goes off the power from last year. His isolated power above average 189. That was again projected for 2022.
Yeah. You know how I love projections.
I know. He
He
Slugging
could break his he
441.
could break his hand tomorrow. Projections done.
So I'm trying to. So you don't. You have a thing again. You're against. Can we go into that for a second, or should we just let it go? I'm
Preseason
curious.
All-American.
I'm just curious. Why are you so against? I'm not for or against. I'm right neutral. I'm Jimmy neutral, right down the middle.
Yeah.
Why are you against projections? I'm curious. I'm from a coaching perspective. I'm just curious.
Yeah, projections and accolades. I mean, I could project somebody in terms of, okay, I feel like they're going to get bigger and stronger. They're going to learn the strike zone a little bit better, especially at the college level, or younger MLB players that are learning the game and they're surrounded by, mentors, if you will. But no, I'm like I'm more of a the preseason All-American stuff, like, just drives me crazy. Or preseason All-State, like before the season starts or the first week of the season. Oh, this is a preseason all SEC. We don't know. So you put that out there. Yes, they had a great year last year, but who knows what happens? Maybe somebody breaks up with their boyfriend or their girlfriend. Maybe they have problems at home. Maybe a parent passes away. Maybe they get injured. Maybe they're having trouble at study hall and their grades are going. But you can't project all Americans. Let them play the season, then you can give them an award. That's what I'm all about.
What about on the professional side? You don't like that either. I'm guessing.
Well, I'm okay. I'm okay more with the professional side because they're not giving him accolades. They're not saying, "Oh, he's going to be a preseason All-Star, preseason World Series champ." They're going to say, "Okay, we're thinking he's going to project into a guy that hits for more power this year, or a guy that maybe hits for more average this year." I'm okay with those kind of projections.
By the way,
walking more.
On a serious note, I do want to give my condolences to the family of Lauren Burnett and, of course, JMU. I've done a podcast before with Jimmy Jackson, who is the pitching coach at JMU. So he knew who that young gal who just passed away, softball player. So we want to give our condolences to her family, and of course to the JMU family as well. Speaking, of course, about college, but I do want to say this: who would have projected the Miami Marlins to be playing as well as they are? Do we have a dark horse here this year? Do we have a dark horse that I may or may not have possibly predicted?
I don't know. I think that horse may run out of gas in another couple weeks.
Maybe.
That's a tough division. That's a tough division they're in.
Maybe. There's my.
I'm all for the Marlins, though.
See, people like my projections. Do you know why?
You have good projections
because they're right.
Yeah.
I had to say it.
And you're right half the time. That's good.
I know. 50-50. Flip of a coin. Okay, so with Mullins, would you like to get into the analysis with Cedric? There's not many, and the reason we're not going into him for the audience listening and watching as much as we did Juan Soto last week is because there's a little bit of a smaller sample size. 2021 was his first full season. He only has over 2 years of service time. So why don't we get into the analysis?
All right. So getting into Mullins here. So what's cool is we got a high pitch on the left, and so one of the reasons we're doing this analysis isn't just for Cedric Mullins; it's for everybody to learn how to hit different pitches. And I made that comment earlier about he looks like he learned how to hit on the sandlot, and that's exactly what we see. He's covering a pitch here against what Jim said earlier, the Yankees. That's
and for the for the audience listening, these are front views, by the way.
Front views, yes. So make sure you view this on the YouTube page so you can see the full analysis. But so we have kind of front views here, and I have it stopped right at contact. And this is probably these pitches are probably 3 feet You know, they're probably 3 feet, 2.5 to 3 feet in height variation here. So one pitch is at his letters, his armpit, and the other one is right at his knee. So he's able to hit both of these out of the park. So if I bring this video back, we're going to bring the video back and watch a little bit of his stride and rhythm. But you can see he coils a ton in his stride. He keeps his front knee in. One of the things I'm seeing a lot with young players, especially, well, he's actually a left-handed thrower, I believe, but especially with right-handed throwers, is when they take and have a leg kick, they'll actually open their front knee during the stride and then close it when they land, which is kind of a goofy move. So we want to make sure that we're, you know, I'll always tell players, hey, you know, show them your pocket, you know, show them your hip pocket when you're striding. So the cool part is on the right, it's a left-handed pitcher. Okay, so that pitcher is, you know, throwing from the second base side. So he really has to stretch his neck, and you can see pretty similar view we have here, which is awesome. But notice on the left, because he's facing a right-handed pitcher, notice how much more counter rotation he has. So you notice how much of his back is turned. I guess that's the best way to say it. And it's because he's looking over towards the shortstop side to pick up the ball. But when he's facing a lefty, he can't turn quite as much. Okay. Now, fortunately for him, he's super flexible in his neck, so he's still able to create a lot of turn. It's just not quite as much. The best way to look at it is if you look at the amount of jersey next to the 3 on his back. You know, he's number 31. So on the high pitch coming from a right-hander, you can see there's more jersey showing on that side than the other side. Okay, it's very good. So that's why very important for players, try to keep your back eye. Make sure your back eye is as flat as possible to see the pitch. Okay, from a right, if you're a righty on righty, it's a little bit tougher. Righty on lefty, it's always a little bit easier. So one of the other things he does is when he lands with his front foot, he lands very close. Okay, so now I'm going to bring him to heel plant. You can see his front knee is opening, but his front foot is closed. So he doesn't have a ton of separation at all. At heel plant, his hips are very square. Okay, they're very parallel. If you drew a line, I mean, through from his back hip to his front hip, it's very parallel to this batter's box line. It's very parallel to his toe line here. All right, so he's not opening his front side a ton. So it's pretty cool, right? 175 pounds, 5'8". He's probably not creating more than, 28 degrees of torque. Okay, it's not a big Donaldson move or anything like that. So where is he getting his power from? Probably his athleticism, probably finding barrels. You can see here on the high pitch, we're going to bring him forward. Now, all of a sudden, you can see his hip starting to open. That's going to open his front knee more, and then you'll probably finally see his front foot open. But his front foot really doesn't open until after contact, okay, which puts a lot of stress on it. You can see then all of a sudden he spins on his front heel there to get to that pitch. But something really cool to see, right? We talk a lot, like I know about my hitters and what we're trying to work with and adjustability and working guys out and not only setting the tee at the knees or setting the tee at the thigh. Like, look at these pitches. Look at his bad vertical angle on these pitches. So the high pitch, he's only dropping his barrel, it says 12 degrees. On the low pitch, he's at like 38, okay? I want you to do both. I did a lesson yesterday with a kid for the first time. We threw the blast sensor on it because he had a big barrel drop and everything he was doing was like, 38 to 42 degrees with his barrel drop, and he was swinging up like 24 degrees. I put that thing on him and I was like, look, I want you to be able to do both. I want you to be able to, if I say, hey, swing 0, swing down on this one, give me a negative number. I want you to be able to do it. Or, hey, I want you to swing up more. See if you can hit 15 degree with your attack angle. I want that adjustability. Okay, we're not robots. We don't just coil and uncoil when we hit. We have to be adjustable in the swing. And that's exactly what we see with him. You can see it more, his head's down more on the low pitch. You can see his upper body. A lot of people talk about this tilt, this inward tilt with your spine in order to get to low pitches, which is great, which is totally right. But if you're only taught to lean in and create a posture going in, how are you going to hit this high pitch? So if you look at this one, look how straight up his spine is. Okay. Again, we have to be able to adjust that. It's not one move. And how do we do that? We work out the different parts of the strike zone. Okay. So really, really cool guy to see. I mean, his lower half looks, he's not an over rotator at all. He hits this ball, the high pitch into right center field. Look at his hips stop through contact. Like his hips aren't even rotating through contact. He's just releasing the barrel. So as his barrel turns the corner, his belt is still facing center field. Okay. One of the things, this high pitch swing reminds me of Carlos Beltran so much. Okay. If you look at his follow through where he just slices, I'm going to draw this line. Okay. So that's the line. Where does his follow through come after? It almost connects. So if I continue that line, his follow through is like almost under that arc. See how low his follow through is? It's like underneath his shoulder. So many people are like, you got to finish high, you got to finish high, got to finish high. Not all the time, and not everybody. Sometimes I have players try to finish low because they finish high and they top everything. If we look at this one, so watch this, I'm gonna draw that same line and watch how he finishes. He stays under that line, but watch how much higher his follow through is on this swing. So if we look at this, kind of this arc, now all of a sudden he brings his hands way higher because it was a low pitch. And so people, things are different, right? One's a high follow through, one's a low follow through. One he leaned in more, one he was more upright. And what were the variables that were pretty much consistent? It was going to be his stride, okay? His front foot lands. Let's see what this one looks like. We didn't look at this on the right, the other one. So yeah, this is interesting. So the pitch on the left that he pulled, his stance, he actually dove a little bit. You can see his front toes are closer to home plate than his back toes. On the other one he hit, he was pretty, I would say, parallel. Here's the batter's box line here. So he's pretty parallel, where you can see he's more closed on the other one. Did that hurt him? No, he still took a pitch right down the middle and pulled it, even though he was closed off. And that other pitch that was down and in, he wasn't closed off with at all. He still got to. So again, super athletic. One of the last thing I want to cover here is watch how quiet his hands are through contact. I know we talk about this a lot, but that barrel right after contact. So this is the angle of his barrel. The key is you don't want that angle to change too much after. So you can see 2 or 3 frames after, he's on that same angle. It's just further to the right. And check this out, it still looks the same. Okay, he didn't flip his hand, he didn't have any manipulation. If you look at this one that was down, that's such a tough pitch to hit, by the way. I'd be upset if I was the pitcher. But there's his vertical bat angle, and then notice after, it's still pretty close, right? Still pretty parallel to it, where a lot of times you see it flip up and over, and then they'll end up hitting ground balls. So he has very quiet hands. He doesn't pronate his top hand over his other hand, his left hand over his right hand very much. And that's going to allow him to limit the amount of rollovers and topspin balls that he hits to the pull side. So like I said, this was the first time I've really gone into his swing. I wish we could find some side views, but it was a little difficult doing that because he's so fluid with his swing and he makes adjustments so well. It would be cool to see exactly what his mechanics look from the side. But he's a hitter, and I think Albies is kind of a cool little comp. I think Mullins here is more in control than Albies is for sure with his swing, but I think they're both very, very athletic in their movements. And that's all I have to say about that, Jim.
I'm rewatching the second clip of, and again, these clips are from the front view. I'm watching the one he hit out in San Francisco, the high pitch one.
Yeah.
And I can't take my eyes off of it. It's such a smooth swing from.
It looks easy, doesn't it?
It does, from bottom to top. It's just, he has
simple.
a very smooth swing.
Nothing is forced. Like he's not out of control at all. That's what I was saying. Like he's very square. When he lands, his hips are square. He doesn't force them open. Maybe he could do that a little bit more and create more separation, but he doesn't need to. He's very old school, whippy kind of hand action guy versus somebody that's more lower body dominated, which is, typically what we see today is guys that are really trying to drive into the ground and they're trying to get wide and low and rotate fast. I think he's more of a nod to the past where he's just trying to kind of find a barrel, any way possible. High pitch, low pitch. I'm going to chop down on the high pitch and I'm going to try to lift the low pitch, and he's able to do it.
Watching his swing over again.
Yeah.
What kind of drills do you think he does? You mentioned how smooth he is. He seems a little handsy. What drills do you think he does?
I bet he does a walkthrough drill.
Mm-hmm.
A kind of a walkthrough drill. Mm-hmm. I bet he focuses on releasing the barrel, like a loose hands drill. I bet he does a lot of loose hands drills where he doesn't use his legs, where he probably resists his lower body and he just kind of focuses on whipping the barrel through, getting the knob out in front, and then releasing it. Mm-hmm. That would be my guess looking at what he's doing, but might be kind of a cool research project for sure.
Yeah. Who do you think you already kind of mentioned it with Albies, but I've been trying to figure out this whole time who his comp, it's going through my head, who his comp would be. Who do you think a solid comp outside of Albies would be for him?
Even like going back in history.
Right. Yeah, of course.
I'm trying to, I don't know. He almost gives me like a little bit of a Tony Fernandez back in the day.
Sure.
Not quite Jose. Oh no, not Jose Batista. Who was the other Batista? Do they have another Batista?
Tony.
With Tony?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He was a middle infielder, right? With the Blue Jays too. He's got a little Chipper Jones, without the rhythm. Like from the left side for sure. He's got some Chipper Jones, just doesn't have, as much of the hand action or, in the rhythm. He's a little quieter with his stride and with his hand move. But, Chipper kind of had that where sometimes, he had that kind of the one hand finish. Sometimes he had a two hand finish. His follow through really does remind me of Carlos Beltran.
Yeah, sure.
On pitches that aren't super down, but like from the thighs to the belly button, he just kind of looks like he slices right through. Boom. To a smooth, low finish that Beltran was kind of known for, especially young Beltran, like Astros Beltran and Royals Beltran.
What about Fernando Vina with more power?
Yeah, I could see that too.
A little bit,
especially on the lower pitch swing.
Yeah. And you know what's rare? You know what's rare too about him? You mentioned he stopped switch hitting. He used to be a switch hitter. Now he's just hits left-handed. Why do you think he did that? Let's get into that a little bit with his switch hitting. Why do you think he chose the left side rather than the right? I mean, because again, small sample size when he did it, very young in his career. Why do you think he stopped switch hitting?
Well, he probably did it originally because he was fast.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good to be a center fielder that's a switch hitter. He was already hitting from his dominant side, so that's the easy part. He was already a left-hand hitter and left-hand thrower. Yeah. So most of his life he was hitting from that side, and then it was like, oh, once in a while there's a lefty on the mound. Maybe I'll try to hit right-handed. And he probably had some decent success doing it in college. I think it just got to a point where, you know what, the stats don't lie, and I'm just a better left-handed hitter. JT Snow.
Mm-hmm.
Did that same thing, back what was that, the 90s? JT Snow play.
Mm-hmm.
He was a left-hand hitter for the Angels and the Giants, or a switch hitter, and then he went exclusively from the left side just because he was more comfortable. He probably saw the ball better. It didn't matter that there was a left-handed pitcher on the mound, and then the stats backed it up. That he was having more success that way. So it's usually different. If you have a right-handed guy that's right-hand dominant, Chipper Jones, right? Right-hand dominant guy that's a right-handed thrower, and they grow up hitting right-handed, but then they do left-handed too, and it looks good. But you get the majority of at bats from the left side because there's just more right-handed pitchers, especially growing up, than there are left-handers. So you're constantly hitting from that left side. But what happens sometimes is we're not as good from that side. And so we're giving away 10% every time we swing the bat because we want breaking balls to move into us.
Yeah.
So it's a problem. I've worked with players. There's he's not a kid anymore. He's a grown ass man with kids now, but he was an amazing college baseball player and Cubs farmhand, and was a switch hitting third baseman with good size, but he was so much better right-handed. Like, he had so much more. I remember one year he hit was it double A? He hit 32 home runs or something like that.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I think he hit 18 of them right-handed, but he only had like 110 at bats right-handed.
That's crazy.
And like 400 at bats left-handed, and he still hit more home runs from that side of the plate. So I was like, buddy, what if you just hit right-handed all the time? Like, you may hit 50 jacks that year. Who knows at that pace you were on. So it's hard though. It's hard to make that change. So kudos to Mullins for saying, you know what, I'm just going to stick with this because I think I'm going to be good. And then he went out and hit 30 jacks. Go figure.
I have one more comp I have to throw out there. I'm sorry. And if I may, a hitting comp.
Mm-hmm.
How about Dave Roberts?
Oh, I don't remember Dave Roberts all that much.
All right.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there.
Yeah. No, I kind of see, but I don't know enough swings for old Dave.
One more question before we wrap the show up, but I do want to remind everybody to follow us on social media at Jim Tara, at Epstein Hitting, for great tweets, great content, great Instagrams, etc., etc. And email us, jimbopodcast21@gmail.com.
I sent you an email to that address this week.
I know, even Ep sent me an email. So people, we didn't get
I know that email address better than I know my own.
We didn't get any email questions or comments or concerns or criticisms this week. So please write in. I mean, we have I don't mean to brag, but we have a lot of downloads on the audio side. All these downloads we have, I know people have questions. Write them in.
Yes.
Glad to answer them.
Why is Jim still single and he's 48 years old? No one understands. He has dogs and cats and parrots.
You label me a cat guy, do you?
And iguanas, because you have iguanas everywhere in Champa Bay.
Do I have to bring in Kaya the Golden Doodle to prove I'm not a cat person?
We do love Kaya the Golden Doodle. Get her cape.
My final question about Mullins. Question. Is he a guy? The Orioles are in rebuilding mode right now, obviously. Is he a guy that, and it's tough to rebuild, by the way, in the American League East. Very, very tough. The Rays have figured it out, but I mean, it's very tough to do on a yearly basis. If you want to rebuild, it's the American League East. They're good again. It's a good division once again.
Right.
Do you build around a guy? It's again, 2 years of service time. He's not a free agent until 2026. Do you build around Cedric Mullins in the process of rebuilding your team? In this case, i.e., the Orioles.
No, I think you just stay the course. They with the Rushman, and they got their draft picks, and they're going to start moving him through. And then you know what? In 2 years, Mullins is 29.
Yeah.
If it looks like, okay, he's the cornerstone now because we have a little bit of a surrounding cast and we're one or two guys away, absolutely, he could be that guy. But I think right now, with their current situation, they let him play and build stock. And then if there are other guys that they've drafted aren't ready yet, then maybe you move them for a couple more prospects, and now you're really cooking, maybe 2 years down the line. So, I think it's a good guy to have on your roster right now if you're the Orioles, because you're not overpaying, you're getting production, and you can either choose to build around him when the other guys are ready to go, or you move him and get some prospects.
But you're thinking he's not a centerpiece guy.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so right now. Maybe if he hits 30 again, I mean, not to hit 30, if he hits 25 again the next year or two and drives in runs.
Yeah.
Okay. I think he drove in 90 runs or something last year too, right? So,
yes.
I mean, if he's driving in runs and scoring runs, and then, maybe I'd think that. But with 1 year of that, I don't know if I'm going to hang my flag quite yet.
Right. Solid up the middle guy as of now.
For sure.
But we'll wait almost like we'll wait and see, but you can easily be the franchise guy right now and be the face of our organization.
Yeah.
If you're the Orioles. Okay. All right. Good answer.
They don't have anybody else.
Yeah. It's rough season 2022 in the Beltway, isn't it? This year.
Rough one. They're both those divisions are tough this year.
Rough season. Yeah. Rough year. You can say that about
the
Nationals.
Don't give up yet. Don't give up yet.
I'm just saying you can say that about the Nationals too.
I know.
They don't really have anybody yet either, except the guy we did last week.
That's it. You hang the flag on that guy.
Gladly, any day of the week.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of next week, we're talking about Jose Abreu. We're breaking down his swing. Yeah,
I remember I saw Jose Abreu. I'll see if I can still find it. Jose Abreu, when he first came up, there was a swing that I got somehow, and it was like the greatest hand path ever. And it was on all my online academies. I used to use it for every voiceover that I did. This was, I don't know, 10 years ago, 8 years. How long has he been in the league? 8 years?
Since 2013.
So 8-9 seasons. Yeah. So, I mean, I have a swing from that year and I'm like, this guy's going to be so good. Like his hand path is so easy and it's so short to the ball and his extension's good. And I still have it in my library because I like to refer to it once in a while. So that'll be a really good one because that guy can absolutely hit.
Yes. Episode 98 next week. Do you have anything coming up at the lab, BCS?
Nothing special. I mean, we're not going to have a fireworks show or anything like that, but we're prepping for our summer camp. So we have some cool mini camps where we'll be able to, work a lot of skill stuff early in the day. And then the last hour of that camp is kind of like a sandlot game, which is so fun, to get the kids out there and running the bases and, just having fun. I think sometimes we get into our season and we have our team practices. Sometimes it's fun to just get out there with a different group of guys and play an 8-on-8 game and get in pickles and try to get in rundowns and try to force throws and try to hit jacks, which is always fun too. So anyway, we're excited for the kids to get out of school so we can watch those.
All right. For more information, log on to the lab, bcs.com. Do you have anything else before we depart for this week's episode?
I'm digging down deep right now, but I can't think of anything else.
All right. Well, I got to go tend to my cats, so I guess we'll talk to you all next week. See you later, everybody.